you. Well, it's great to be here. Great to see some Winchester folks. There we go. Boy, following Dick Morris, that is tough. But I'll give it my thank you, Tim, so much for that. It's true that 2 days ago, boy, we were in a rut, weren't we? That was a tough place. I was shocked and devastated. And Tim Kaine bears a lot of responsibility for what happened. He bears a lot of responsibility for the passage. And you won't hear him talking about it here in Virginia, just like it wasn't in the 30-minute accomplishment piece. But it was in San Francisco 2 weeks ago where Obama was at a fundraiser with Tim Kaine, cheering him on, saying, "This is my best friend ever, the first person outside of Illinois to endorse my presidential campaign." You will not see that here in Virginia, but you bet those dollars from San Francisco and out all over California and New York will be pouring into Virginia because we are going to be the focus of the nation. And what we have to do is articulate the problems of Tim Kaine, because let me tell you, that whole bit about Tim Kaine, what a moderate he is, that's how he ran. We laugh, but it's stuck. People actually believe that garbage. Well, the first thing you need to do to disabuse your friends and neighbors and colleagues, and you got to be talking about this everywhere, the first thing you need to do is remind them that Tim Kaine was the DNC chair right in between Howard Dean and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, okay? That's the kind of moderate credentials you need to be DNC chair. He has been an incredible advocate for cap and tax, for Obamacare, and for every leftist piece of Obama's agenda that he has out there. But now keep in mind that Tim Kaine is he is running around talking about what a great executive he was, okay? He was one of the worst governors in Virginia history. He came into office and he was presented with the gift of a $1.2 billion budget surplus. A surplus. What do you do when you have a surplus? When you are in business, you invest it wisely, maybe you expand your operations, but you set aside a good portion of that for the hard times because they are going to come. But what did Tim Kaine do with that $1.2 billion of our money? He went on an unprecedented spending spree. And with that $1.2 billion sitting there, he proposed his first budget. In his first budget, he proposed the largest tax increase in Virginia history. That is what a leftist he is. It is never enough. The government never has enough of our money. They always need more, and they need to be expanding because we can't do it on our own. Because individuals are incapable, and we need the wisdom of the governing elite in order to be able to function as a civil society. Well, that's not how we see the world. But that is the Tim Kaine vision of the world. So he vastly expanded entitlement spending. He wanted more people enslaved in that cycle of poverty, more people dependent on government. Do you remember, some of you were around, Tim was around, and some of us were around in the mid-1990s when Virginia became the model for the nation in our welfare reform. Our governor in the mid-1990s cut back welfare spending dramatically and enabled individuals to be gainfully employed and to have prosperity, a hope for a future, an independent future not dependent on the government. That's what the conservative philosophy is all about. But Tim Kaine rejected that. And in good times, he expanded this entitlement spending ridiculously. He also, good grief, one of the biggest issues facing America, energy independence. And what does Tim Kaine do? He forbid offshore drilling. And get this, when a couple of our offshore oil leases became available, he asked the U.S. Department of the Interior to cancel the leases so nobody could buy those leases, nobody could drill offshore. He actually impeded energy independence in America. The man is part of the environmental leftist wacko movement, and don't ever forget it. He is one of the leftists of the left. Also, one other thing that he did that we need to point out, he overlooked, and knowingly overlooked, $1.4 billion sitting in the Virginia Department of Transportation budget. It was sitting there. And he didn't like the fact that the General Assembly didn't pass one of his In every one of his budgets, he had massive tax increases. Well, he didn't like that the General Assembly rejected his tax increase. So what does he do? Continues to ignore that $1.4 billion, and he throws this little hissy fit, and he closes our rest stops. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
It made no sense whatsoever, but to make a little point, and to say that your government is displeased with you, he shut down the rest stops. That is an appalling, ridiculous action. And then when he slunk out of town, you know, he's running around the country campaigning for Barack Obama while he is governor, turned his back on Virginia. As a result, 100,000 net new jobs were lost. We never got those 100,000 jobs because I would say he took his eye off the ball, but he never had his eye on the ball. Never. And so he slunk out of town when he finished his administration and left us not only a deficit, but a budget asking for $4.4 billion in new taxes. $4.4 billion after coming into office with $1.2 billion surplus. Tell your friends and neighbors that. Do you know how many members of the General Assembly voted for that budget that included a $4.4 billion tax increase, including Democrats? Do you know how many votes he got? 0. It was appalling. Yeah, finally, Virginia. And Bob McDonnell came in and had to save the day, which he did beautifully. But you know what? We need to remember that Tim Kaine is representative of what's wrong in our government right now. Believing that government is always the solution, believing that more government is better. He will do anything to promote that notion. And I know a lot of us are frustrated about what happened a couple days ago. A lot of us are demoralized. I certainly was a little bit down myself, slammed a few doors. But you know what? It's too important for us to give up. It's too important for us not to be putting all of our energy into it. It is about life. I will absolutely agree. It is about life. But yesterday when we were in Richmond, I drove by on my way into town, St. John's Church. And I tell you, I hope all of you know what happened at St. John's Church. As I was driving by there, I almost broke down. I was so overwhelmed as I'm tired and as I want to go home and I want to stop running around. I was overwhelmed by the notion that on the floor of St. John's Church, in front of Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, I believe they were there, Patrick Henry stood up and committed an act of treason for which he would be hung if he were captured. And he stood up and he talked about what we're talking about, life. Is life so dear or peace so sweet so as to be purchased at the price of chains or slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what others may do, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Folks, this is about liberty. Liberty. Life. What is life worth if we don't have that liberty that is not given to us by Barack Obama or by John Roberts or by the court or by Tim Kaine? It's given to us by God. Him alone. And our founders had the courage to commit this experiment to practice. Every one of those signers of the Declaration of Independence, they were signing their death warrant because they believed that liberty comes from the Almighty, and no one has the right to take it away. We give it away as we see fit. And we have not seen fit to give away our rights to quality, health care, to life and prosperity. We have not handed it over to the government. It has been taken from us in a fraud. Those signers, Elbridge Gerry had palsy, one of the signers of the Declaration, and when he went forward to sign that Declaration, his hand was shaking from the palsy, and he said, "My hand shakes, but my heart does not." They were strong, they were firm, they were courageous, and many of them sacrificed their children's lives. Their wives were hunted down. Surely we can dig deep and find the courage to stand up and to fight without ceasing, without being frightened or afraid. Surely we can gain courage from their example and from their sacrifice. I know that's what AFP is all about. That's what Tim Phillips is dedicating his life to. That is what so many brave and valiant conservatives are doing all across the country. We need to support them, we need to encourage them, and we need to expose what the left is trying to do, not just to take our lives, which they will if this healthcare continues, but they want to take the essence of who we are as a great nation, the shining city on a hill. They want to take our liberty, but we will not allow it. God bless you all, and God bless America.